And new details are coming in tonight about the 20-year-old gunman we just showed you. But what remains a mystery is his motive. Shaq Brewster tonight.
The shooter may be deceased, but the investigation is very much ongoing.
Shocking moment in American history. Assassination attempt on former President Trump.
An hour and a half ago, there was an assassination attempt on former president and presidential candidate Donald Trump.
The bullet is in me now, so I cannot make a very long speech, but I will try my best. These were Theodore Roosevelt's words after being shot at in the chest during a campaign speech. His story is just one of many we'll uncover as we explore the dangerous reality of being a US president. Have you ever wondered why so many powerful figures seem to meet violent ends? The presidency of the United States is no exception. It's a job that comes with a target on your back. But it's not just the famous cases you've heard about. There's a whole hidden history of close calls and lesser known attempts on presidents' lives. Did you know that more presidents have survived assassination attempts than have actually been killed? It's true. And some of these stories are so bizarre you might think they're made up, but they're not. We're going to reveal the shocking truth about the constant danger faced by US presidents. But what happens when an assassination attempt succeeds? Let's turn back the clock to 1901. Picture this: a grand exposition in Buffalo, New York. Crowds gather to meet President William McKinley. Little do they know, a man with a hidden agenda is waiting in line. Have you ever wondered how easily a moment of celebration can turn into tragedy? As McKinley greeted well-wishers, an anarchist named Leon Czolgosz approached. His hand, wrapped in a handkerchief, concealed a deadly secret. 2 shots rang out. The nation held its breath. At first, there was hope. McKinley seemed to be recovering. But appearances can be deceiving, can't they? What followed was a roller coaster of emotions for the American people. As gangrene set in, McKinley's condition worsened. 8 days after the shooting, the unthinkable happened. The president of progress had fallen. Czolgosz's chilling words still echo today. I killed the president because he was the enemy of the good people, the working people. But was there more to this story than meets the eye? Have you ever wondered what it's like to witness history unfold before your eyes? On April 14, 1865, theater goers at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. had no idea they were about to become part of a tragic turning point in American history. As the curtain rose on Our American Cousin, a sinister plot was already in motion. John Wilkes Booth, an actor turned assassin, had a different script in mind. What drove this man to commit such a heinous act? The fatal shot rang out, and chaos ensued. President Lincoln slumped in his chair, the victim of a bullet to the back of the head. But here's something you might not know. Lincoln didn't die immediately. He clung to life for 9 agonizing hours. What happened during those final moments? As Lincoln fought for his life, Booth made a dramatic escape. Despite breaking his leg, he managed to flee the scene. But freedom was short-lived. Union soldiers tracked him down, cornering him in a Virginia barn. Refusing to surrender, Booth met a fiery end. But was this truly justice served? On November 22nd, 1963, America experienced a moment that changed history. As President John F. Kennedy's motorcade wound through the streets of Dallas, no one could have predicted the tragedy about to unfold. As the president's convertible passed the Texas School Book Depository, shots rang out. In an instant, the United States changed forever. Kennedy was struck in the neck and head, while Texas Governor John Connally was also wounded. Chaos erupted as the crowd realized what had happened. But who pulled the trigger? Enter Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine. Was he a lone gunman or part of a larger conspiracy? The debate rages on to this day. Oswald's own life was cut short just 2 days later when Jack Ruby shot him on live television. What secrets did Oswald take to his grave? Have you ever wondered what it would take to stop a bull moose? In 1912, one man tried to find out. Theodore Roosevelt, the larger-than-life former president, was campaigning for a third term when the unthinkable happened. A bullet pierced his chest, but what came next defies belief. Picture this. Roosevelt, bleeding from a gunshot wound, insists on giving his speech anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose, he declared to a stunned crowd. Can you imagine the shock? But who was behind this brazen attack? John Schrank, a man driven by a bizarre dream where he claimed President McKinley told him to avenge his death by killing Roosevelt. It sounds too strange to be true, doesn't it? Despite the assassination attempt, Roosevelt spoke for 90 minutes with a bullet lodged in his chest. The manuscript in his pocket had saved his life. Have you ever seen such determination? On March 30th, 1981, the unthinkable nearly happened. President Ronald Reagan was leaving the Washington Hilton when shots rang out. But who was behind this attack and why? The answer might surprise you. John Hinckley Jr., a man obsessed with actress Jodie Foster, pulled the trigger. His twisted logic? He thought shooting the president would impress her. Can you imagine the shock when the news broke? As chaos erupted, Reagan was rushed to the hospital. What happened next became the stuff of legend. Despite being shot, the president's famous wit remained intact. He told the wife, "Honey, I forgot to duck," and asked his surgeons, "I hope you're all Republicans." But here's what many don't know. The bullet missed Reagan's heart by just an inch. It was a close call that could have changed history. Have you ever considered how differently things might have turned out? Ever wonder how a president could survive a shooting only to be killed by his own doctors? That's exactly what happened to James Garfield. On July 2nd, 1881, Charles Guiteau, a delusional office seeker, shot Garfield at a train station. But here's the kicker. It wasn't the bullet that killed him. Have you heard about the unsanitary medical practices of the 1800s? Garfield's doctors repeatedly probed his wound with unwashed fingers and dirty instruments. Can you believe it? This led to severe infections that slowly killed the president over 79 agonizing days. Even Alexander Graham Bell tried to help, inventing a metal detector to find the bullet. But the doctors wouldn't let him search the whole body. Why not? What were they hiding? Garfield's assassin, Guiteau, even claimed Garfield died from malpractice. Was he right? The tragedy spurred medical advancements and changes in presidential security. There was also the time a president was saved by faulty firearms. It happened to Andrew Jackson in 1835, marking the first recorded attempt on a U.S. president's life. But who was behind this audacious attack? Enter Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter with delusions of grandeur. He believed he was King Richard III of England. Can you imagine the shock when he approached Jackson outside the Capitol and pulled the trigger? Not once, but twice. Here's where it gets strange. Both pistols misfired. The odds of this happening? About 1 in 125,000. Was it luck or something more? Jackson didn't wait to find out. He charged at Lawrence, cane raised high, ready to strike. As bystanders rushed to help, including Davy Crockett, Jackson emerged unscathed. But what about Lawrence? He was found not guilty by reason of insanity. The prosecutor? None other than Francis Scott Key, the man behind our national anthem. Coincidence? You decide. Have you ever wondered how close we came to losing a president before he even took office? On February 15th, 1933, President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt narrowly escaped death in Miami. But who was behind this brazen attack? The would-be assassin was Giuseppe Zangara, an Italian immigrant with anarchist beliefs. As Roosevelt greeted the crowd, Zangara fired 5 shots. But here's where it gets strange. He missed Roosevelt completely. Instead, the bullet struck 5 other people, including Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak. Did you know Cermak's last words to Roosevelt were, "I'm glad it was me instead of you"? But was Cermak really the intended target? Some speculate that organized crime might have wanted Cermak dead due to his crackdown in Chicago. Amid the chaos, Roosevelt remained eerily calm. Can you imagine maintaining composure in such a situation? How different might history have been if Zangara's aim was true? Given that FDR would go on to serve for 4 terms as president, this country's history would have been completely different. Actions speak louder than words, and sometimes people want to be heard loud and clear. Just ask Harry Truman. On November 1st, 1950, 2 Puerto Rican nationalists decided to make a bold statement. But why target Truman? What was their endgame? Picture this: a fierce gunfight erupts outside Blair House, where Truman was staying during White House renovations. Bullets flying, lives on the line. Who would come out on top? In the chaos, White House policeman Leslie Caufelt made the ultimate sacrifice. But here's the kicker. Even as he lay dying, Caufelt managed to take down one of the attackers with a shot to the head. Talk about going above and beyond the call of duty. And Truman's reaction? You might expect fear or anger, but no. The very next day, he took his usual morning stroll through Washington, D.C. Can you believe it? Was this bravery or indifference to the man who saved his life? What is it like to face death twice in just 17 days? That's exactly what happened to President Gerald Ford in September 1975. Not one, but 2 women tried to kill him. Can you imagine the fear and paranoia that must have gripped the nation? First, there was Lynette Squeaky Frum, a follower of Charles Manson. She approached Ford with a .45 caliber handgun, but it didn't fire. Why would a Manson family member want to kill the president? It turns out she was trying to draw attention to environmental issues and Manson's cause. Just 17 days later, Sarah Jane Moore took her shot. Literally. She fired a .38 caliber revolver at Ford from 40 feet away. But a bystander grabbed her arm, causing her to miss. Moore had ties to left-wing politics and had even worked as an FBI informant. What was her real motivation? These attempts led to a complete overhaul of Secret Service protocol. Have you ever wondered what it's like to live with a constant target on your back? That's the reality for every US president. After all these assassination attempts we've explored, you might be asking yourself, how do they even survive? The Secret Service has evolved from a small team of bodyguards to a high-tech protection force. But at what cost? Some presidents have felt like prisoners in their own home. Can you imagine never being able to go for a walk alone or drive your own car? And it's not just physical danger. The psychological toll of knowing someone might try to kill you at any moment is immense. The latest attempt on former President Donald Trump shows just that. How would you cope? But despite it all, the American presidency endures. Makes you wonder what kind of person is willing to take on such a burden, doesn't it?